I don't owe nothing. He got all his songs already. How you think he got so hot? Came out with all them tapes. I did that. I put them hooks together. I made incredible music. All he did was rhyme 16s.
Well, you know,
I made incredible. I made the hooks. I made the melodies.
Yeah.
I made the shit, dog. I'm the man. Just enough to get my room so I could ram this shit up, ram it up his ass. Right? My window was there. He tried to grab it. So when he came in the window, I punched him in the face.
Max B and Jim Jones were once tighter than family. But the second Jim set their brotherhood aside, everything changed in an instant. That's the moment Max stopped being Jim's hidden advantage and became the one obstacle he could never outrun.
So Jim Jones, compare the names. Look, Max Bigavel, Jim Jones. That don't even add up. That's not on my level, man.
People were stunned when rumors exploded. Claims that Max had messed with Jim's girl, wrecked his car, and turned up the heat in Harlem just to send a message. Max wasn't playing games. Charlie Wingate grew up in Harlem's Abraham Lincoln projects, where survival wasn't a choice, it was the daily rule. His childhood hit heavy. With a mother battling addiction and drifting in and out of prison, it was his grandmother who kept the family together. She was his foundation, but even she couldn't keep the streets from closing in. Long before he had the East Coast singing his hooks, young Charlie was discovering his voice in the Harlem Boys Choir, where the raw pieces of that signature Max B wave first formed. The drifting melodies, the sing-rap vibe, the smooth tone that would later shift the entire sound of a generation. It all started there, but talent couldn't hide the danger circling around him. By 18, Max got dragged into street chaos that flipped his whole path. In 1997, he caught a robbery case and served nearly 8 years behind bars, a bid that would have crushed most people. But Max wasn't most people. Prison didn't break him, it leveled him up. When he walked out in 2005, he came home with a new identity and a sharper mindset. That's when the world met Max Bigavel, a name inspired by Biggie, Machiavelli, Tupac, and Jigga. In his head, he was the perfect fusion: smooth delivery, harsh reality, and an unstoppable hustler's drive. And if you think this is where the story gets wild, you haven't heard anything yet. Keep watching.
My name is Max B, aka Max Bigavel. We know Bigavel stands for Big Jig and Pac, right? But where did the
Big
name...
Jig and Machiavelli, baby.
Yeah.
Big Jig and Machiavelli.
When Max came home, Harlem was already on fire. The Diplomats had the city in a chokehold, with Cameron and Jim Jones energizing the entire neighborhood. Max linked back up with Cam, and through that connection, he was introduced to Jim. It wasn't long before he signed with Jim's label, Bird Gang, and started working with legendary Harlem producer Dame Grease. The first time they hit the studio, the chemistry was immediate. In 2006, Max released his debut mixtape, $1 Million Baby, and the streets went crazy. His voice, his fearless presence, his unfiltered energy, everything he put out sounded unique in the best possible way. It was like Harlem had just uncovered a walking lightning bolt. Bird Gang now had two major upcoming talents, Max B and Stack Bundles. And with both of them on his team, Jim Jones was sitting on a gold mine. Max quickly became Jim's secret advantage, delivering hooks and verses that elevated every track he touched. Records like Baby Girl turned into instant favorites, and whenever Max's voice drifted onto a song, the entire energy shifted. But even with the momentum in the studio, the streets never stopped creeping up behind Max. Then, in September 2006, things veered in a chaotic direction. Max got word from his ex, Gina Conway, about a flashy guy named Alan Plowden, a smooth, well-connected scammer running mortgage and mail fraud while flashing stacks of cash and driving luxury cars. According to Gina, she told Max everything about Alan, and a mix of envy and opportunity pushed the situation into risky territory. She claimed Max told her they could pull off a hit and everyone involved would come out winning.
Boyfriend Charlie Wingate, aka Max B, a rapper, about the men's money. Then Wingate reaches out to this man, Calvin Leardom.
What happened next is still argued about today, but it ended in tragedy. Max wasn't at the scene when everything unfolded, yet prosecutors claimed he was the one who planned the whole operation. Gina, who was deep in the fast life, hustling and stripping, testified that Max instructed her and his stepbrother, Kelvin Sims Leardam, to rob Plowden at a Holiday Inn in New Jersey. The plan seemed straightforward. Wait until Plowden went out for the night, break into the room, grab whatever money was there, and leave without being noticed. But from the start, nothing went smoothly. Gina and Sims supposedly drove around confused for hours, missing exits, wasting time, and arriving way too late. By the time they got into the room, Plowden had already returned and was asleep with another woman beside him. Then David Taylor entered, someone who wasn't supposed to be anywhere near the situation. Sims panicked, and in a moment of fear and chaos, shot Taylor in the face execution style, turning a botched robbery into a murder case.
It all began the morning of September 22nd at the Fort Lee Holiday Inn. Police are called there after a man is shot to death. The victim, David Taylor from Florida, was staying in room 2.
Gina Conway was the first piece of the case to fall apart. Once she was caught, she revealed everything she could to protect herself. She provided a 169-page statement and pointed directly at Max as the person who orchestrated the entire setup. She claimed Max promised her everything: money, loyalty, a lifetime bond, if she played her part. When federal agents came for Max, they didn't hold back. He was arrested and hit with serious charges, including felony murder. His bail was set at an enormous $2 million. While Max sat in a cold cell, stressing over every minute slipping by, life outside continued without him. Jim Jones, the same man who had signed Max and brought him into Bird Gang, started popping up everywhere. That's when Jim released We Fly High, better known as Ballin', a track that skyrocketed overnight. It became the biggest hit of his career. Max later claimed he wrote it, saying he ghost wrote that song and many of Jim's top records. But while Jim was doing interviews and climbing higher, Max was behind bars, battling for both his freedom and his future.
Got him in his drive already. I don't owe nothing. He got all his songs already. How you think he got so hot? Came out with all them tapes. I did that. I put them hooks together. I made incredible music. All he did was rhyme 16s. Well, you know, I made the hooks. I made the melodies. Yeah. I made the shit, dog. I'm the man.
After 10 long months, Max's bail was finally reduced to $90,000. That's when Jim re-entered the situation, but not in the loyal way people expected. Instead of helping Max like a real friend, he allegedly used the bail as leverage. According to reports, Jim agreed to pay the bond only if Max signed over his publishing and committed to delivering 6 albums under him. Stuck in a cell, desperate, and with no other options, Max signed the contract. Jim walked away with the publishing rights to the iconic wavy sound, while Max walked out of jail, only to face a future where nearly everything he created no longer belonged to him. Max B was released in July 2007, and he came out a different person. Colder, more focused, and carrying a weight of anger he didn't care to hide. He was broke, felt betrayed, and trapped in a deal that robbed him of his future. Meanwhile, the person gaining the most from it all was the same man he once called his brother.
I banged it just enough to get my room so I could ram it up in. Right? My window was there. He tried to grab it. So when he came in the window, I punched him in his face.
Family, Jim Jones. Max spent those days in his cell watching the streets shout his name through mixtapes and DVDs, turning him into a kind of neighborhood legend. And the louder people embraced the wavy movement, the clearer things became to him. If Jim wasn't going to support him, Max was ready to flip the whole situation on its head. Max had every reason to feel betrayed. This wasn't just business, it was deep financial damage. Jim Jones owned all of Max's publishing, meaning every hook, every unforgettable ad-lib, every line people replayed over and over, the checks went to Jim. Every single one. And it wasn't only the money. The friendship was shattered, the trust was gone, and Max was left with a mind full of payback and a heart frozen by how bad things had fallen apart. So he walked away from Bird Gang with a mission. If Jim Jones wouldn't give him what he deserved, Max would expose him publicly. And no line was too far. Before long, Max crossed paths with the perfect ally, French Montana. At that time, French wasn't a superstar. He was a gritty street name, famous for his Cocaine City DVD series, showing the rawest corners of the Bronx and beyond. French already had issues with Jim due to an old shooting incident where rumors said Jim was speaking badly about him. So when Max and French linked up, it wasn't only about music. It was a partnership built on shared tension and real street frustration. Together, they formed Coke Wave, which quickly became one of the most aggressive and unstoppable mixtape movements the streets had ever seen. Max already knew the industry wouldn't save him. He had no publishing rights, no label backing, no machine pushing him. But he still had a voice the streets loved and a natural talent for making music people couldn't ignore. So he did what any real hustler does when trapped. He went underground and took control. He started putting out his music for free, letting the streets hear everything the industry tried to silence. And he didn't just release songs, he released direct hits aimed at Jim Jones and anyone around him. Max held nothing back. His first major strike came through the mixtape Public Domain 3. The cover alone sent shockwaves. Max standing in a cemetery beside tombstones, engraved with names like Millie, Jim Jones, and Vanilli, plus Joel Santana renamed as Joel Santana, comparing him to the old Milli Vanilli duo accused of faking their sound. In Max's eyes, Jim and Joel's were trying to ride a wave he created, and he had no problem calling it out. He kept clowning them with tracks like Singing Rapping, dropping lines like, "I know them dudes need me. I was giving them the loop, but them dudes done blew it." Each bar was another jab, and Max delivered everyone with a grin you could hear through the speakers. Max didn't stop at the music. He targeted their images, their reputations, everything Jim was trying to protect. One of the wildest moments came when Max dropped the disrespectful track, "She Touched It in Miami." He claimed Jim's longtime partner, Chrissy Lampkin, had been around him in ways that crossed boundaries. He never gave explicit details, just hinted at betrayal while laughing through the verses, making Jim look foolish in his own circle. The streets reacted instantly and ate it up.
Right around that time, Max B gets found guilty on 9 of 11 counts, including felony murder. And he gets sentenced to, was it 75 years?
Yeah, 75.
Jim Jones was shocked. He didn't expect Max to take things to that level. He denied everything, brushed off Max's claims, and tried to diminish Max's impact by calling him a washed-up artist who never gained real momentum. He even insisted Max didn't write "We Fly High," but the streets weren't convinced. Max's voice was clearly on early reference versions that had leaked, and people started questioning how much of Dipset's catalog had Max's fingerprints on it. Max wasn't just talking either. He moved like someone truly ready for confrontation. He even claimed Jim tried to trap him one day by boxing in his car in a parking lot. According to Max, he saw the setup early, rammed Jim's Bentley to get free, and even landed a few punches before peeling off. It sounded unbelievable, until Max proudly displayed the dents in his own car like they were victory trophies.